What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mama Knows Best Sorta, episode 16. I'm the chosen one, and I'm here with,
Mama.
again, these episodes are pre-recorded, so you don't get to see, kind of the live stream or the behind the scenes. We first said 10 o'clock. My mother was not here on time. Then she shot me a text saying that she'll be on at 10:20 Eastern, and she didn't get on at 10:23, and then proceeded to have to take 10 minutes to get set up. I don't understand.
Why do the people need to hear about how the sausage is made? That's none of their business, okay? Sometimes I need a little bit extra time. And wait a minute, we're recording on Saturday, my off day. On my off day that I gotta get up, be ready physically, be ready mentally to perform because I'm the talent. So how dare you put a session that will re-record on a Saturday, and on top of that is Cinco de Cuatro. It's Cinco de Cuatro, a Cuatro de Mayo, and I should be somewhere having a margarita right about now. But go ahead.
So I'm calling on the edit team to put violins in the background of that saga that she went on. I'm calling on Pastor Sherry Fuller, both of our pastors, both of our aunts, to pray for you. I mean, you're talking about having a margarita at 10 o'clock in the morning. Do you have any type of self-control? I mean, what is wrong with you?
What is wrong now? I would have rather have one at 9, but I had to be ready. The talent had to be ready. So they don't need to know how the sausage is being made. All they need to know is I'm here. She's ready.
I don't know. I don't know. That's again our team. Our team has been completely fed up with you. We have been interviewing mothers. Unfortunately, April was a busy month. Shout out my birthday. Shout out Destiny's birthday on April 30th.
Yeah, we shout out Destiny's birthday.
No. You're not allowed to give shout outs. Please do not interrupt my shout out. So, April was a busy month. We're in May now, and we've been interviewing mothers, and we're, kind of wrapping up we're potentially going to be bringing in your replacement around episode 20. So you got about,
I wish you would.
You have a couple more episodes. You have a couple more episodes left, and you will be replaced.
Yeah, okay. This is Mother's Day's month, so we definitely need to do a tribute to the mothers. Aha!
Well,
aha!
I'm glad you reminded me that it's Mother's Day coming up in a couple of weeks. I need to go ahead and get on Amazon and get you a $5 cover. I need to get on Amazon and get you a $5 cover. Get it shipped by the end of this episode.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Shout out Amazon Prime, okay? But today's episode 16, we're going to be talking about a parent-child relationship.
Disrespectful children. Perfect timing. That part.
Episode 16, we'll be talking about a parent and a child's relationship. Stay in a child's place, right? That's going to be the overall theme of this podcast. And I'm excited, boy. We've had a lot of different topics that we've covered on our podcast, on our platform. But I think that you are the most eager for this topic. So, any words before we get into the first question?
No, let's do it.
Okay, well, the first question on the docket is, let's get it pulled up. Are children or young adults more disrespectful in today's generation? Let me ask that again.
Hell yes, and excuse my language. Yes, they are very disrespectful.
Hold on. Can I ask the question again? Are children / young adults more disrespectful in today's generation? You can go on your tangent.
Like I said, absolutely yes. And then, I had to think about it when you had sent the question is why? Why are kids more disrespectful? And I just came up with a couple of reasons. And of course you can chime in. I think one, parents now these days want to be friends with their children. We've talked a lot on our platform about the effects of social media. You're seeing 45-year-olds want to be 20-year-olds. They want to do whatever. Again, that's a whole nother topic that we've already explored. But I think sometimes there is a danger where you becoming friends with your child because they tend to lose that respect value. Like to me, it's cool. Like especially when you be getting, you're grown. You want to have that relationship with your child, but if that child or young adult can't handle it, then they feel like you wanted the homies where they could talk to you any kind of way, call you bruh, and lost that level of respect. I think also, again, we've talked about this in different topics, social media. Kids are coming out nowadays with phones out the womb. So then you got the effect of social media feeding that child's brain, thinking it's okay to do this, say this, be just be any old body, just so yeah, I just think not, and then also maybe not having a two-parent household showing that child what it models to have a parent child relationship. And if you're being influenced by your peers, social media, like I said, be a parent trying to be a friend, that all plays a role in their disrespect. So I'll pause because I'm sure you got some things that you want to add.
Yeah, I agree. I think being a young adult myself, I don't know all the gen numbers, Gen Y, Gen X. I don't know all that. But let's just say my age range of being a young adult, being at 23, and a little bit younger or whatever. I do believe children are more disrespectful in today's generation. But I'm glad you went into the why part. Your generation failed, right? It started the downfall was actually your mother's generation. Shout out grandma. Grandma's generation, your generation is to blame for why young adults and children are acting the way they're acting now. You guys are the leaders, right? So you guys created the internet. You guys are the CEOs and vice presidents of these, massive social media tech companies. You guys are the parents in that household. You guys are the television hosts and newscast anchors. So you guys are the main influence on what society is going through today, right? Children are built to follow right now. You can't be a leader in the world at 15, 16 years old. The president can't even be president to after he's 40 something years old. So it's kind of funny how you on this podcast, your line of generation, the generation above, talks about how disrespectful kids are nowadays. But when do you guys hold up a mirror and be like, hey, you guys are leading all these different sectors, whether it's the social media companies, whether it's on television, whether it's being these CEOs and being these world leaders, when you guys sit up and be like, man, we failed at home and we failed outside of the home. Take some responsibility.
Okay. What you're saying is partially true. So in regards, so let's break it down because the question you asked children slash young adult. So let's take it from a child's perspective. You're absolutely right. The child is following. They are learning from their parents, their society, all of that. So yes. So just making it personal, raising you wasn't allowed to have a cell phone. You wasn't allowed until I think you was in sixth grade, and it was a phone that had minutes, and I don't even think you could barely get on the internet. You didn't have a TV in your room, so you were closely monitored. Of course, I can't monitor you when you're out of school or when you're getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, sneaking on phones and stuff like that. So yes, you could say that generation has failed because, even thinking about my mom was a single parent, a mom raising 3 kids because guess what? The black man was absent. So she's working, you got 3 kids at home, left to their own devices. Yeah, yeah, they probably gonna to do some things they ain't supposed to be doing. Now, taking it to the young adults, that's where you fall into the category. Can you explain why you're disrespectful? Can you explain why you need to be choked? Can you explain why you need to be beaten because you know what to do, right? And you are still disrespectful. So you're talking about accountability. So that means you should know what it means to respect your mother, to honor your mother, and you don't. So can you explain why you've been raised, not to say The household was perfect. But please tell the people why I need to choke you out.
Well, that was awesome. That is definitely a clip. We will be pumping that out on YouTube. We'll be pumping out on TikTok. We'll be pumping that out on Snapchat. We'll be pumping that out on Instagram. Shout out Rez. Shout out our team. We've extended your contract into another episode. First off, I don't believe that I'm a disrespectful. Do I think everyone is always perfect? No. But again, let's not get into a rabbit hole. Like you said, even me being a young adult at 23, right? I may have leadership capabilities. I am responsible to be a leader in my own life now, right? You're talking about how I was raised and the different boundaries, and we'll get into that later on in the next question that you put in place for me to be able to be successful, right? But again, we're talking about the world, and we take this to a macro level. A 23-year-old is not the CEO of Facebook. A 23-year-old is not Elon Musk and owning Twitter. A 23-year-old is not President Joe Biden or the former President Donald Trump, right? So the things that are going on in this world, the different, we always have a prayer call. We pray for the minds of the young children to protect them. So again, the different environments, things that are influencing children that are now in that young adult stage, we're not the leaders of that. And you have no argument against that.
Right, but we talked about being disrespectful. You're right. Of course, generations after generation has failed, right? I am totally not disagreeing with you on that. However, we still have a responsibility to what? Are we going to fall in line with that generation? Or are we going to be the rebels and do something different, go against the norm? Like, even with me, I'm 45 years old and I still, sometimes have that battle with the respect with my mother. But I can't say, oh my God, since the world is so screwed up, or because I didn't have a daddy who took care of me, then I'm going to not respect my mother. It still has to come to an age where you still make a choice. You still make a choice. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say this, or I'm not going to do this, or guess what? I'm going to influence my circle, because somebody has to start somewhere. Any movement that has taken place, it was somebody having a change of heart or going against what the world is presenting. So listen, like you keep bringing up Donald Trump, all these leaders. You know what? What I could do is go and vote. What I could do is educate myself. What I could do is get more involved in my local community and make an impact here that will eventually, you want to have that forward movement. But back to that, why are kids disrespectful, young adult, or even at my age? It comes back to, yes, how they were raised, how they are influenced, and all of that. But you still have, that individual has to make a choice that they're going to live their life a certain type of way outside of,
Right.
it's
Well,
being right. Right is
okay.
right and wrong is wrong.
Okay, you went on a 5-minute tangent. I almost fell asleep. Golly. You talk about choices. You talk about, even, what it's like for you to be a child with your mother and now being a parent to me, being a child to you. And that brings us into the next question. I'll let you kick that off.
So when should parents set boundaries with their children?
No. Yeah, you answer the question. You ask the question, and then you allow me to answer it.
Is that how it's supposed to go? I thought there again, I was the talent. But okay, fine. Did you get the question? When should parents set boundaries with their children? Go ahead, son.
I think parents should set up boundaries with their children when appreciation turns into repeated disrespect, right? I think a lot of people, tend to understand but not fully embrace that familiarity and expectation leads to disrespect, right? It's almost like if you bring, I always use an analogy, right? If you bring a homeless kid into a home, right? Let's say that home is a $300,000 home. Nah, let's not even put a price point on it. It's a great home, 2-parent household. They got all the food in the world. They got their own room and everything. That homeless kid is going to be starting off blessed to be like, man, I have food in the refrigerator. I have my own room. I have an opportunity to go to school with new clothes on, right? By month 6, he's grown accustomed to that. He expects that. It's not that he forgot where he came from being a homeless kid, but now that appreciation has turned into expectation. And I think parents have to keep their children on their toes where it's like, hey, the expectation, we have to remind you about the appreciation. We have to remind you that you have to appreciate having a good parent. We have to remind you that you have to appreciate to have financial blessings to support you. Hey, you have to appreciate that this parent has sacrificed for your life to be a little bit easier and not expect to have your hand held throughout the reality of life. And I think there are too many parents that are handheld in their kids that are allowing their kids to expect and not appreciate. And so I guess, yeah. So that's into my soliloquy.
Okay, so I'm just going to come from a different point of view. The word boundaries is not about a bad word. There are such things as healthy boundaries and then there's unhealthy boundaries. I think the minute that child is out the womb, you need to start setting boundaries. What I mean by that is just thinking of you
Well,
raising it.
hold on. Are you telling me that you set up boundaries with a 1 day-year-old?
Let me tell you, baby, my boundary was you ain't sleeping in my bed. We got this crib. You got this little the swing. We got this. The boundaries is the boundary that was set in my household. My bed is my bed. Your bed is your bed. You do not sleep in my bed. That is a healthy boundary. You have to start the way you want, or you see that child going, that's how you're going to raise them. That's how you're going to do things. Okay. At certain time at 10 o'clock at night, you don't need to be coming in the bedroom because adult stuff can be going on. That's a boundary.
What adult stuff is going on at 10 o'clock at night?
I was married. Yeah. So I'm just saying. So there are, and then the boundaries, they change and you have new boundaries as that child grows up, for example, like now with you being a young adult, the boundaries are going to look different than you as a child. Now that I'm no longer married or stuff like that, don't be crossing the boundary asking what mama doing, because mama's an empty nester. She grown, she can do what she want to do. That part. And vice versa, as now you are grown, have your first apartment as a young adult. I can barely come in there and do anything. You walking around me like I don't know how to take care of household. Like, you're not, so you ever been like, you like to run your house a certain type of way. You ain't letting anything go. So I think boundaries are always present. Now, I think the other side is, because we're talking about children and disrespectful and all of that. So let's bring in that boundary. As a young adult, and as a parent, if you're constantly feeling as if you're being disrespectful and I can no longer tolerate certain things, then a boundary has to be set in place. Okay, you know what? You need to stay on your side over here. I'm going to stay on my side over here. And, that come in. I don't want to tell, all of my personal business, but me and my mom lived together when we first moved down here in Tampa. And at first it was beautiful, it was like a piece of home was here. We was getting along. I had never lived outside of Missouri. Outside of going to college and, you know what I mean, as an adult. So I'm figuring myself out. It was a lot of transitioning going on in my life. And I started dating an individual that she didn't particularly, well, she liked in the beginning, but for whatever reasons, they didn't. And so she was crossing certain boundaries as a grown 40-year-old woman who is standing on her own, telling me who I should and should not date. And so to me, that boundary was crossed where I had to set a greater boundary to exit this type of environment, in order for our relationship to get back on track. So sometimes, and I'm saying all that to say, because again, I'm tying it into that respect is, in order for a person's peace of mind or mental wellness, if this relationship is not serving me well, whether it is a parent or child, of course, you never want to find yourself in a situation where you are setting those type of boundaries with your children and vice versa with a child with a mother. But if it is toxic, it is unhealthy, then you need to do what you need to do, because people don't realize the importance of mental wellness. And, they always talk about, yeah, I'm worried about your physical health. I'm worried about this. But what about my mental wellness that is being overlooked? You got kids killing their parents all the time. We think that that's something that's not heard of, or people are committing suicide because it's like, you know what? I don't need to deal with this. So deuces. But I know I went on a rant, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna pause
golly. I mean, you got to
because
start.
there's boundaries. It
Yeah,
could be
you got to start reviewing the questions and making your answer a little bit more concise. I get
no,
what
but
you're
I
saying.
think that needed to be brought up because there again, when you think of boundaries, people think it's
Well,
not
we got your entirety of like 5 different angles of boundaries.
exactly.
That brings us into the last question, right? When those 5, 6, 7, 8 different things of boundaries being, crossed, should a parent ever cut off their child? And don't pull no punches. On this podcast, we don't beat around the bush. We won't smoke. Okay. Should a parent ever cut off their child? Go.
yes. Because, and I hate to say that, I hope that this happens less often than much than I mean less often than I would have can think of. But yeah, if a child betrays their parent, talks to them any kind of way, uh yeah, they should be cut off because how dare you? Like I think you should always continue to love that child and maybe support them. And when I say child, I'm saying more so a young adult. I don't, I couldn't imagine cutting myself off from a child that is, under the age of 18. However, again, we're living in a different generation. And thank goodness I never had to experience that. I never had experience, a child coming home and beating me up or anything like that, because I don't ever want to disregard a parent who have actually lived through that. But if a child is, or a young adult, that's what I'm going to refer to, is mannish, don't care about your feelings, very disrespectful, betray you, then it should be grounds to, you know what, I see you when I see you, I talk to you when I talk to you. I mean, I've met a girl, she didn't talk to her mom for 5 years. I won't call, her name out, but I've never had it been a situation like that. But if I ever feel like it's coming to where I have to choose my well-being over supporting you, you getting cut off.
Absolutely. A parent should cut off their child if it gets to a place where that child cannot respect boundaries. I completely agree with that. I believe that because, again, we talk about mental health, we talk about setting up those boundaries. And at the end of the day, again, expectation turns into appreciation so very fast, right? And so that parent can't be held hostage because of their unconditional love for the child. I believe that most parents exercise unconditional love for their child, but if that child doesn't love them back, if that child is disrespectful, if that child is anchoring down the family, if that child doesn't want to respect boundaries, you
Right.
have to cut the fat. And I think you have to have that hardcore thought process. And maybe that's a little bit brutal. But on the flip side, a child should be able to cut off their parent. And it goes for the same way, right? A parent can't gaslight their child. A parent can't continue to overstep boundaries and yell out in parents' name, right? Like we always say in Jesus' name, a lot of time parents might say in parents' name, right? Just
Right.
because you're a parent doesn't allow you to be able to walk over and do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say. So the same grace that the same opportunity a parent can have to cut off their child, a child has the same opportunity to be able to cut off their parent.
Hey, you can legally do it. So I totally agree with it. So either way, and hey, it is what it is.
So episode 16, based off these 3 questions, I destroyed you again. So now it's moving my record. It's a 16-0 against Mama.
Not really. I mean, we really didn't differ on a lot of the topics. I mean, you just kind of gave some baby 23-year-old answers. That's why I had to bring it. I always have to, give it more global. I'm more global.
I had to mute you because we don't want to hear another 3-minute tangent by you. The team, hold on, I'll unmute you. The team and I will be meeting on Sunday, tomorrow, at the time of this recording. I don't know if you'll be in attendance. We will be first on the agenda, finding a new mother to be on the podcast by episode 21.
Okay.
And we'll be putting some things in place to rein you in.
We got a whole people want to be me. They go through a whole learning me to take my life. So I don't think you want to get rid of Mama. I know you're gonna cut this part out because we got a whole person who wants to be me or is me, living me, trying to live my life, but you can never be this Mama. So I doubt.